What does it actually mean when the Pleiadians say that two timelines can reach a point where they become invisible to each other? This is the central question behind their latest message, because they are describing something much deeper than people simply choosing different paths. They are saying that the separation has reached a stage where consciousness itself is beginning to organize human experience into different realities, and the distance between those realities is now becoming easier to feel in everyday life. The Pleiadians describe this as a process that has already been developing for years. For a long time, the different timelines remained close enough for people to move between them very easily. Someone could spend part of their life deeply connected to fear, then suddenly shift through an awakening and begin moving toward a completely different state of consciousness. Those paths were still close together. According to this transmission, that space is now narrowing because each timeline is becoming more stable around the frequency that sustains it. This explains why the idea of a timeline split has become so relevant again. Many people within the awakening community have noticed that the world seems increasingly difficult to experience as one shared reality. People can watch the same event and come away with completely different understandings of what happened. Even within families or old friendships, there can be a growing feeling that two people are no longer experiencing life from the same place. The Pleiadians say this is one of the first ways the separation becomes visible. Relationships are especially important here because they reveal frequency very quickly. You can still care about someone and remember everything you once shared with them, while feeling that the connection no longer reaches the same depth. Sometimes, nothing dramatic happens. The relationship simply begins to feel distant because the energetic bridge that once connected both people is weakening. The Pleiadians describe this as consciousness moving into different fields of experience. And this brings us closer to what they mean by becoming invisible to each other. They are speaking about access. When two people become deeply established in different frequencies, they stop receiving reality through the same energetic field. They can still physically exist on the same earth. They can even live in the same city or work in the same building. Their consciousness begins interacting with a different sequence of experiences, and over time, those sequences have less contact. This is why one reality can remain present while becoming less active in your personal experience. As your frequency stabilizes, your life begins organizing around experiences that match it. The Pleiadians say this process is accelerating as the higher Earth field grows stronger. Higher solar currents are intensifying the separation and revealing where each person is truly aligned. Your deeper frequency increasingly determines which timeline continues to form around you. A timeline strengthens through participation. The more consistently you hold a certain inner state, the more firmly your consciousness anchors into the reality connected to it. This shows us how timeline migration actually works. It begins internally, then the outer structure catches up. Your relationships change because your inner field changed first. Your priorities begin shifting because another level of consciousness is becoming dominant. Eventually, the circumstances around you begin reflecting that movement. The Pleiadians describe the present period as one where this gap between inner change and outer manifestation is becoming much shorter. This also explains why some people feel that their old life has become unusually heavy. Places that once felt normal can suddenly feel completely wrong. Conversations that once held your attention can become exhausting. The body often notices this before the mind creates an explanation, because the energetic mismatch is already present. In the Pleiadian view, this sensitivity is part of the sorting process taking place across the planet. The deeper mystery is what happens when that sorting becomes strong enough. According to the transmission, the two major timelines eventually stop exchanging the same amount of energy. Contact becomes less frequent because each field becomes increasingly self-contained. People naturally move toward experiences that reinforce the reality they are already inhabiting. The physical Earth remains shared for a period while consciousness begins living through very different versions of it. This is where the idea of becoming invisible starts to make sense. It does not require people to suddenly disappear in front of each other. The separation happens through experience first. Certain people leave your life. Certain situations stop finding you. Entire ways of thinking lose their emotional power. The world connected to your previous frequency begins fading because your consciousness no longer provides the bridge that kept you attached to it. The Pleiadians also make an important distinction about the higher timeline itself. They describe it as an active planetary layer that already exists. People move into it through sustained resonance, and many still move back and forth because their frequency has not fully stabilized. This explains those periods when everything suddenly feels clear and deeply ordered, followed by a return of old emotional patterns that briefly pull consciousness back toward a denser field. Over time, one of these states becomes your natural position. The Pleiadians say this is when timeline migration becomes much more permanent. The experiences connected to the older field gradually lose access to you because your consciousness stops returning to the frequency that sustained them. What once felt like the entire world becomes a reality you recognize from a distance. This is also why trying to convince everyone around you becomes increasingly pointless within this message. People understand according to the field they are currently able to receive. Someone anchored deeply in another timeline can hear the same words and feel no resonance with them. The separation grows through frequency, and recognition happens when consciousness is already close enough to receive what is being shown. So when the Pleiadians say the two timelines are moving toward a stage where they will no longer see each other, they are describing the final result of a long energetic separation that is already underway. Consciousness is becoming more organized. Experiences are becoming more closely tied to frequency. Relationships are revealing alignment, and the higher Earth field is becoming increasingly stable for those already moving into it. The deepest meaning of this transmission is that the timeline split is no longer something waiting somewhere in the future. The Pleiadians are describing it as a present movement that is already shaping lives from the inside outward. The separation becomes real each time consciousness stops feeding an old reality and establishes itself more fully inside another one. Eventually, the distance becomes great enough that what once felt like a shared world begins to exist as two very different experiences of Earth. Thank you for receiving this message. For those who feel a deeper connection with the Pleiadian field, my Pleiadian Light Language album is now available through the link in the description. This album brings together 4 mantra transmissions in Pleiadian Light Language. Each chant carries a distinct frequency and guides you into a deeper experience of remembrance, healing, connection, and stellar awakening. You're about to hear a short excerpt from one of the tracks in the album, so you can feel its frequency for yourself. See you very soon.